everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Nikki Kinzer.
Hello. Sound like we're from Britain.
We just top-hatted this thing. So this week, we're talking about, we're going to talk about some Brené Brown stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So before we get into all that, I have been playing with data over the last few days, right? Okay. Trying to get my head around some of our driving forces, as I continue to massage this Rash Pixel FM thing to life. And I wanted to share something with you. So this month so far, this show is being actively downloaded in 117 countries around the world.
Wow.
That is actually a new record for us, as we were right around 100 countries at the new year. And I think that is just a magical thing that we're able to do this from our offices in Oregon. So I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who is listening right now, wherever you are on the planet. And thank you doubly so to the Federal Communications Commission this week for taking the first steps to protect the internet so that small businesses like mine can continue to serve great people like Nikki, to far-flung places that we have never been, like Turks and Caicos Islands and Northern Mariana Islands and Republic of Serbia and Liechtenstein and Cambodia and Fiji and Aruba and so many more. Is that cool?
That's very cool.
It is very cool. Yeah. So if you are new to the show, if you've found us on SoundCloud or on Twitter or Facebook, head over to takecontroladhd.com. Get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to our mailing list just right on the homepage. There's a little box. You can enter your name and email address, and we'll send you an email with the latest episode each week. You can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD and call us. Leave us a voicemail, 503-664-480D. And get your voice, your thoughts, your questions on this show. We'd love to hear from you.
That's right.
I imagine you want to talk about small group coaching starting in April.
I do. It's starting in April. So now is the time to sign up, and you can go up to the website and register. And there's just a couple of questions, and it has the different times that are available and what group you're interested in and everything. And I just thought it was really interesting. I put a Facebook post out, and it's interesting to me, the response that it's gotten. I've gotten a lot of likes on it and a couple of different shares and everything. And I wanted to read it, just real quick to see if it resonates with people, because it seems to be resonating online, which is great. Basically, the post just said registration is now open for small group ADHD coaching. You have two groups to choose from, ADHD moms or ADHD professionals. I'm looking for people who want to be connected, motivated, and inspired. I want people who are open to new ideas and who are willing to share their own experiences in a supportive, non-judgmental group setting. And then, of course, my last question was, is this you? And so I'm hoping that if that fits with anybody that's listening, that you do, jump on the website and register, and also spread the word. I think that the people that I've been talking to in the last week, everybody is talking about what a need this is for people, and how, what a great opportunity. And, Pete, I'm so passionate about this group coaching. I just really want it to work, because I just think it is a great service for people. But I think I need to make sure that people know about it.
Step one, tell everyone.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest, probably roadblock that I have right now, is just sharing it with people. And so if you're listening, and if it maybe isn't for you, but you think it might be for somebody else, please share my website and show, tell them how to get connected with that web page specifically for group coaching, because I just really want people to know about it. And I think that's my biggest message and plea for today is please share.
I love that plea. I think that's a great message, and I think it's a very important one. So thank you, everybody, for sharing. Anywhere you are in the world, thank you for sharing. So
yes, absolutely.
All right. So what do you want to talk about today?
Well, before even we get into Brené Brown, I wanted to say something that was sort of a observation. I know you told me about the Calm app, right?
Yeah,
a while back. Yeah, we were talking about that. So this week has been sort of a stressful week for me because I had a couple of things I had to do to wrap up my graduation from my ADHD coaching program that I've been in the last year. And I had to take a test. And so, of course, it was kind of, I have testing anxiety and it was stressful. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to try that guided meditation app.
It's about time.
Yeah. Well, because I meditate usually just kind of on my own, but I was almost too stressed and anxious to even do it on my own. So I thought I really need to have some guidance here. So I got onto the Calm app and I have been doing it ever since. And what's so funny is I'm addicted to the little oh, congratulations, you are 5 days in a row. I don't want to miss a day because I want to see the 6th day in a row and I want to see the 7th day. So isn't that funny?
It is very funny. I think that's so great. They have gamified meditation and it works.
Yes. I want to see how many days in a row I can get.
You'll be a floating yogi in no time. You'll still be checking this app every day.
And what was really interesting for me, and I've never done guided meditation before. I've always just sort of, I guess I shouldn't say I never have. I have in the sense of, you're in a yoga class and, that's kind of guided, I guess. But not in this form of what this Calm app does. And I will tell you that the biggest surprise for me is how fast 10 minutes goes by.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
The first time I did it, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was lying to me.
Yeah.
I'm it hasn't been 10 minutes. It's only been 3.
That's the value of perception right there. I mean, we think that 10 minutes, when you're just walking around thinking, oh, I have so much to do, 10 minutes is, oh my gosh, I'd never be able to fit 10 minutes into my life to do a quick meditation. And yet, it's a blink of an eye.
A blink of an eye. So anyway, anybody out there that's curious about it, do check it out. I am really digging it.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Look forward to day 6.
Day 6.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
All right. Brené Brown, who is fantastic.
As we kind of mentioned a little bit last week, she is a research professor, and she has spent the last decade, I believe, is what she has on her website, studying vulnerability, courage, worthiness, and shame. Wow. Those are some words.
I know. Heavy.
Yeah.
Well, we think of them as heavy, and I think one of the things I like so much about Brené Brown and what she brings to it is that shame and vulnerability are just words.
Right.
They don't carry the weight and the baggage that they do for many of us.
I'll be honest with you, Pete. When I was trying to figure out how to do this podcast, what were the key points? How did I want to summarize this? What did I want to talk about? I'm a little bit overwhelmed because, I don't know. I watched her TED Talks. I think one of the things that surprised me the most in the last couple of weeks since I've been sort of studying her message is after watching her TED Talks, I was really motivated by what she was saying. I decided, like I said this last week, I bought 2 of her books. And I read Gifts of Imperfection within 2 days. And I can probably tell you, I don't think I have ever read a self-help, and I know I say that with quotes, self-help book in its entirety ever.
You skim around, you skip around, and yeah.
Or you read, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I'll see somebody on Oprah or something and be like, oh, wow, they're so awesome. I'll go buy their book. And maybe I only read the first couple of sentences. And that's it. But this one was just interesting. I read it literally within a 48-hour period of time, which to me says a lot because it's captured my attention in some way. And I'm still trying to kind of process how this fits into my life and especially how it sort of fits into who I am as a coach, because a lot of what she is saying, and this is maybe why it's resonating. See, I'm processing as I talk out loud.
Right.
This might be why it's resonating so much is so many of these words that she's talking about are what people bring to the table when they're coaching or when I'm coaching with them. And so that's probably one of the reasons too, but also again on how it fits in with who I am too, just as a mother and wife and
right.
and parent, or I guess I already said mother. I can be a mother and
mother and a parent and a wife and mother.
I have double roles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I mean, like I have, as Pete, we have like show notes, or we have kind of like outlines before we do these shows to kind of get an idea of where we want to go with this. But I don't know. I mean, where do you want to go with this?
Well, her central message for me is one that I keep kind of in the back of my mind all the time, which is, when do I start deluding myself into thinking that I can be perfect? Because that's when the brain damage kicks in,
right?
And that brain damage is so it's just devastating. It's the thing that tells you in the back of your head that you if you can't be perfect, you shouldn't do this, right? If you can't lead this perfect life, if your family can't be perfect, if your yard isn't well manicured, if you're not, then why are you even showing up? Because you can't, you can't keep up with everyone else. And one of the things I love so much about this book is that it helps you stop that fable. It stops telling yourself that story. She really coaches you through, living in a space of imperfection, and that I think is the thing that I resonate so much with, and that I'm okay even though I'm not perfect.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because in the first talk, which I believe, if I get this right, you want to watch the vulnerability first and then the one on shame, because the shame, she kind of talks about what happens to her after she did that first talk, which I thought was really interesting. But anyway, at the very first talk on vulnerability, the last kind of slide that she has on living this kind of wholehearted life was "I am enough."
Right.
And that hit hard for me because I think that, what you're saying too with the perfection, but just being okay with who you are, regardless if you're different or you don't have what somebody else has, or you're not at the weight that you think you should be at, or your story, for you, I don't know. I mean, just having all of that, I am enough. Like you said, no matter what, I'm enough. I don't have to be perfect. Was really powerful to me. There were a lot of things, when she explores the word shame, and how that's such a dirty word. I mean, it's an uncomfortable word to be, but then, shame. Well, I guess I have to start with the connection piece, that we all want to be connected. And so what she's saying is that shame is this fear of not being connected. And I just never really saw how those words connected. I hate to say that because I'm using connected twice. I guess I didn't see the string that kind of,
Well, talk more about that. How does that, now that you've kind of been processing this, how does that apply for you?
Good question. I think that it's applied to me because the way that she said that shame comes out is it basically comes out in two different ways. It comes out as it's saying, your inner voice is saying, you're not good enough, right? Mm-hmm. Or what are you thinking? Like, who do you think you are? So shame comes into two forms. You're not good enough. You're never good enough. And who do you think you are? And that really resonated with me because I thought, gosh, that's so true. Like when you fear taking a chance, when you fear being vulnerable, because she uses, she's a studier of vulnerability. It's because you're fearing, or for me anyway, you're fearing what people are going to think. You're fearing that it's not going, that you're not going to, for some reason, they're not going to like you, or they're not going to like what you have to say. And then that second voice is, well, who do you think you are to even say this in the first place?
Yeah.
And, I can't tell you how that hit me, to the core.
Yeah, it hits me pretty hard too. It's this whole idea that to your point, you either who do you think you are, or you're not enough. It's this idea that you or your ideas are not worthy of value, right? Are not worthy of love, are not worthy of attention, are not worthy of being, of belonging, right? Of being part of this conversation. And that monster rears its head all the time, and in really subtle and sort of insidious ways. I have been thinking a lot about it lately when, somebody I don't even know, another person in the podcasting field did some just incredible work and released a new show that is just really fantastic. It's one of those things that when you see another professional doing great work in your field, at least from my experience, it is gut-wrenchingly good. It's like just getting kicked. And because you don't know them, it is a very sort of, I think, natural reaction to step back and say, oh my goodness, if they're out there doing that great work, how does mine stack up to that? Well, there's, of course, not even close. I better just go back to bed.
Right.
No one will ever love me or pay enough attention to me to be even worthwhile and to be a part of this conversation now that the bar has been raised so high. And that's all, of course, brain damage. It's just brain damage. And to sit in it, to sit in that sort of brief sense of sorrow and to step back and say, you know what, I'm growing too, just as this other person is growing, and just as we're all growing, and we're all learning, and we're all continuing to do what we do. And the more you sort of sit in that sorrow and just allow yourself to be vulnerable, the easier it is to say, my work is good in its own way. Mm-hmm. But that is so difficult. That is even as I can't remember when I first started reading Brené Brown, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I feel like I've been thinking about these issues since then, since probably before then, and I still fight with it every single day.
Well, and I think even in something that because I listened to a couple of podcasts that she was the guest on too, and so I apologize, I don't remember exactly where I heard what or what I read, but at some point she was saying it's a practice, and she kind of makes fun of it, like, believe me, I don't want it to be a practice either, like, this sucks.
Yeah, right.
That you have to kind of keep working at it. But I mean, it's true. You have to keep kind of, I think what you were saying is that, being aware of these feelings, and having that conversation with yourself and of how you're going to get past it. What do you need to say to yourself to get past it? Because she even talks about how shame, and she has this visual in one of the talks where it's this like swampland for your soul. And what we don't want to do is sit in it. We don't want to stay there. That's not the purpose, but but we do have to work through it and kind of figure our way around it. And, the beauty of her book, The Gift of Imperfection, is she has these guideposts that she talks about on how people who live wholehearted lives, kind of not how they do that, but what they do. It's not how they do it. I think it's more of the practices that they've put into their life to live these wholehearted lives, to have courage and to be vulnerable and to be okay with the outcome no matter what, because at the end of the day, they know they're enough.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson I learned, is that it doesn't really, one of the many lessons is that it's not so much the outcome of anything. You had the courage to do it. You're putting yourself out there, you're telling your story, someone's going to resonate with it, but it doesn't have to be everybody. And I think for me professionally, that was key. Again, I'm processing out loud. I mean, this is a real conversation because I'm just thinking, what does this mean to me? And I think that's it, is that there's been times where I don't know if I want to put this out into the world, because what if it doesn't please everybody? And I think that the point is, it doesn't have to. It's going to please the people that it needs to please. The outcome doesn't matter. I can be vulnerable. I can put myself out there and still know I'm enough. At the end of the day, it's okay. And you do that not only professionally, but I'm just thinking of all areas.
I'm curious your take on these issues and ADHD.
I guess this is really where it resonated with me. She doesn't talk about ADHD at all, right? I mean, she is not she's not an expert in ADHD. But what is so real about what she talks about is the feelings that people have when the conversations I've had with folks who say I'm less than, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, and there's so much shame about who they are. And what was really interesting is she even makes a distinction between what shame and guilt is. Guilt is, I'm sorry I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. And that's where I see the ADHD fitting in, is people think they're bad because they have ADHD. They think, these tapes that have been going on in their minds, since they were little kids. They're lazy, they're stupid, they're not good enough, they're not trying hard enough. And and these things stick. And, even though a client may not come and say, I'm not enough, I hear it in the way they talk to themselves. I hear it when they're explaining something to me. Mm-hmm. And when I reflect that back to them and I say, this is what I heard you say, wow, they're surprised. Because then the next question is, would you talk to somebody else that way? No, of course not. Then why are you talking about yourself that way? They're not treating themselves kindly. Right. And that's one of the biggest things that she says to live a wholehearted life, is that you've got to treat yourself kindly first. You have to take care of yourself first, before you can really take care of others. And, so this is big for me. This is going to change the way I coach. I can guarantee it. Her work means that much to me right now. I'm getting emotional just thinking, just talking about it. It's so powerful.
It is. It is really powerful. I think about. I've been thinking about my behavior, right, when I'm struggling with this kind of stuff and where I go. And I think one of the challenges that I deal with, and I wonder if this is not, a trend, or at least a consistent trait. The dangers of hyperfocus, mm-hmm. That when you use it as a superhero power, when you have something that you're really focused on, and it's part of your job, or it's part of something that you're building or creating, and it can be really very useful. But when you find yourself, perseverating on negative emotions and negative feelings, and feelings of falling self-worth, it is pretty easy to fall into a hyper-focus mode around those feelings, and to really sit and think about how full of shame you are, how negative you are, and how, like you said, those negative tapes spin around and around and around, and it starts looking like more of a bipolar kind of behavior. I'm not my psychology training ended in my first 2 years of undergrad, so I'm no psychologist, but there is that cycle of kind of mania, and then those deep sort of depressions. And that's what it starts to mirror, right? This ADHD hyperfocus on negative sensations, negative emotions. And I feel like it's one of those things I need to be consistently aware of, because I can go there pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people can. I think a lot of people are probably shaking their heads right now relating to exactly what you're saying. And I think that goes back to why it's a practice, and what we were talking about. It's like you're fighting it every day. There isn't any, easy solution. But one of the things that has been brought to my attention, why I wanted to talk about this today, is that we need to talk about it. That's exactly what she's saying. We have to talk about shame. We have to talk about these perceptions that people have of these words. And, one of the things that she said was that shame sits with if it lives in secrecy, silence, and judgment. So it's exactly what you were just talking about with the hyperfocus. If mm-hmm. you're sitting in it, you're sitting in the swamp of the soul, right? Mm-hmm. And you're in secrecy because you're by yourself. You're not talking about it, so it's in silence, and then you're judging the hell out of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You're beating yourself up. Then it's going to keep sitting there. But then what she was saying is that it can't survive with empathy. Empathy is what's going to kill the shame.
Right.
And she went on to even say that the most powerful words that you can say is "me too."
Yeah.
And I'm going to wrap this back around to group coaching, because, man, I believe in this. I can't tell you how much I believe in this. To have somebody tell their story, and then to have somebody else on the other line say, me too. Yeah. I get it. There's just power in that, power of connection, power of being, power of this journey isn't meant to be
alone.
Alone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love it. I love her. I really, this is life-changing stuff for me. It's that good. It's that powerful. So I definitely recommend people checking her stuff out.
Well, and we will post the TED Talks that we're referring to here and links to the books in show notes for this week. Find them at takecontroladhd.com/podcast/ what number? What number is this show? My goodness.
We're almost to 200.
190 episode, so /podcast/ep 197. That is crazy. So it's, yeah, almost 200. Excellent. Well, this is such good stuff. We are going to continue to talk about this and next week, particularly around parenting. And I think these ADHD traits are such great fodder for kind of leaping off of her content and talking about how it really impacts us, because this is where the rubber meets the road for those of us who are dealing with this bouquet of behaviors. Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else? Any other words of wisdom for people?
No, I'm good.
All right. Thank you, everybody, in all 117 countries around the world for listening to the show, for downloading, for subscribing. Don't forget, sign up for the email list if you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, or subscribe in iTunes or where other fine podcasts are served. Thanks, everybody. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll catch you next week on the ADHD Podcast.